The moment my boss caught me staring at him, I knew my secret was exposed. I wasn't staring because he was my boss. I wasn't interested in his money or his power. The truth was much simpler. I had always admired muscular guys, and Daniel Carter was exactly my type. He was confident, calm, and always carried himself like he knew exactly who he was. Every time he walked into a meeting, everyone paid attention, including me. I tried to focus on the reports in front of me. I really did. But whenever Daniel stood there explaining a project, my eyes betrayed me. His discipline, his confidence, the way he worked so hard on himself. I found it impressive. But from the outside, it looked completely different. One afternoon, during an important meeting, Daniel suddenly stopped speaking. The entire room went quiet. Then his eyes landed on me. Ryan. My heart immediately dropped. Yes, sir? He stared at me for a moment. Then he asked, "What exactly are you looking at?" Every person in the room turned toward me. My brain told me to stay quiet, but my mouth answered before I could stop it. "Your muscles." Silence. Absolute silence. I immediately regretted it. Daniel's expression changed. Not just anger, confusion. A few employees looked away, pretending they heard nothing. Daniel slowly closed the folder in his hand. Ryan. My office. I followed him. Every step felt like I was walking toward disaster. Inside his office, I stood there nervously while Daniel sat behind his desk. He looked at me seriously. "Do you understand how inappropriate that looked?" I frowned. "Inappropriate?" "Yes." He leaned forward. "You can't just stare at someone like that." Quickly shook my head. "That's not what I meant." "Then explain." I opened my mouth. But how could I explain? How could I tell my boss that I just admired his dedication? I thought his physique showed hard work. Daniel watched me silently. Then he sighed. "Ryan, people don't usually look at someone that way without a reason." My face became warm. Was he really thinking I was trying to flirt with him? "No, you misunderstood." "Did I?" I wanted to prove him wrong. I stepped forward. But that was when everything went wrong. My foot caught the edge of the carpet. I lost my balance. Daniel reached out to grab me, but instead, we both fell. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then I realized how close we were. I immediately pushed myself away. Daniel stood up quickly. His face looked embarrassed and frustrated. "Ryan, I'm sorry." I rushed to explain. "It was an accident." He looked away. "I know." But his voice sounded different, almost nervous. Before I could say anything else, Daniel grabbed his jacket. "I need a moment." Then he walked out. I stood there completely confused. How did a simple admiration turn into the biggest misunderstanding of my life? When I returned to my desk, my coworker Kevin immediately rolled his chair closer. His eyes were wide. "Ryan." I looked at him. "What?" He lowered his voice. "What happened in the boss's office?" "Nothing." He laughed. "Nothing?" Daniel walked out looking like he had just survived a disaster. I ignored him, but Kevin wasn't done. "Be honest." He leaned closer. "Do you like him?" I almost choked. "What?" "No." Then a cold voice came from behind me. "Really?" I froze. Slowly, I turned around. Daniel was standing there, and from the look in his eyes, he had heard everything. The second I saw Daniel standing behind me, my entire body froze. Kevin immediately became quiet. Then, without saying a word, he slowly rolled his chair away. I wanted to stop him, but it was too late. I was alone with my boss. Daniel looked at me. "Really?" My throat felt dry. "Daniel, I can explain." He crossed his arms. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath. "I don't like you because you're my boss." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Then why?" That question caught me off guard, because the answer was embarrassing. "I just admire you." Daniel looked confused. "Admire me?" "Yes." I nodded. "You're disciplined. You take care of yourself. You built that confidence through hard work." For a moment, Daniel said nothing. Then he looked away. "You could have just said that." I lowered my head. "I know. I just didn't realize how it looked." The room became quiet. For the first time, Daniel didn't look angry. He looked uncertain, like he didn't know what to say. Finally, he sighed. "Ryan, you need to be careful. I understand." He turned toward the door. But before he left, I couldn't stop myself. "Daniel." He paused. "How did you get that strong?" He looked back. I expected him to laugh. Instead, he answered calmly. "I don't train as much as people think." I blinked. "Seriously?" He gave a small smile. "Sometimes people assume they know everything about someone just by looking at them." That sentence stayed in my mind, because maybe I wasn't the only one who misunderstood someone. A few days passed. Things between Daniel and me became different. He was still my boss, still serious, still impossible to read. But sometimes, I caught him watching me too. And whenever our eyes met, he looked away. I didn't understand. Was he still uncomfortable? Or was there something else? Then one afternoon, he called me into his office. "We have a business trip next week." He handed me a file. "I need you to arrange everything." I nodded. "I'll handle it." Daniel looked surprised. Confident. I smiled. "I'm trying to prove I'm not as reckless as you think." For the first time, he laughed. A real laugh. And that moment confused me more than anything, because I had never seen my boss like that. The trip came quickly. I booked the flights, the schedule, the hotel, everything. I wanted everything to be perfect. This was my chance to fix my reputation. When we arrived at the hotel, I felt proud. Until the receptionist handed Daniel the key card. He looked at it, then slowly looked at me. "Ryan." "Yes." His expression changed. "You booked one room." My confidence disappeared. I grabbed my phone, checked the reservation, and my heart sank. He was right. One room. I stared at the screen in horror. "No." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "No." I looked at him. "I swear I didn't do this on purpose." For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he quietly replied, "Somehow I believe you." That surprised me, because before, he would have assumed the worst. The receptionist apologized. The hotel was fully booked. There were no extra rooms available, which meant, for the first time, Daniel and I had no choice but to share a room. And as we walked toward the elevator, I realized something. This was either going to be the most awkward night of my life, or the moment everything between us finally changed. I stood in front of the hotel room door, holding my suitcase tightly. One room, two people, and the most awkward situation possible. Daniel unlocked the door and walked inside. I followed quietly. The room was bigger than I expected, but somehow, it still felt too small. "I'll take the couch," I said immediately. Daniel looked at it. "That couch is uncomfortable." "I'll survive." He looked at me for a moment. Then he sighed. "You always make things more complicated than they need to be." I smiled slightly. "You noticed." For a second, Daniel almost smiled. Almost. That night, we worked on the client presentation. The strange thing was, being alone with him didn't feel as uncomfortable as I expected. Daniel wasn't just my serious boss. He was someone who got tired, someone who carried pressure, someone who didn't always have everything figured out. Around midnight, I noticed him rubbing his eyes. "You should sleep." He looked up. "You're telling me what to do now?" I laughed. "No, I'm just saying, even you need rest." He stared at me, then quietly said, "Not many people say things like that to me." I was surprised. "Really?" He nodded. "Most people only see my position." His voice became softer. "They don't see me." That was the first time Daniel sounded vulnerable. And I realized something. I had spent so much time looking at him, but I never actually tried to understand him. The next morning, our meeting went perfectly. The client loved our presentation, and Daniel gave me credit in front of everyone. Ryan handled most of the preparation. I looked at him. My boss was actually praising me. On the way back to the hotel, I couldn't stop smiling. "What?" Daniel asked. I shook my head. "Nothing." "You're smiling." "I'm just surprised." "By what?" "That you're not as cold as everyone thinks." He He looked out the window. Maybe everyone never tried to know me. His answer stayed with me. When we returned to the office, things between us slowly changed. The rumors started. People noticed we were different. Kevin especially wouldn't stop. So, he leaned closer. What happened on the trip? I looked at him. Nothing. He laughed. You expect me to believe that? Before I could answer, Daniel walked past. Kevin immediately became quiet. Daniel stopped beside me. Ryan. Yes. Come to my office later. My heart jumped. All day I wondered why. When I finally entered his office, Daniel was standing near the window. He turned around. I wanted to talk about something. I nodded. Okay. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect that. Daniel, he continued, at first, I thought you were only interested in me because of my appearance. I looked down. But now, he stepped closer. Now I think you were the only person who actually saw me. My heart started beating faster. I didn't know what to say. Daniel smiled slightly. You know what's funny? What? I spent so much time telling you to control yourself. He paused. But I was the one who started losing control. The room became silent. For once, neither of us looked away, and I finally understood. The biggest misunderstanding between us was the thing that brought us closer. Daniel wasn't just my boss anymore. He was someone who understood me, and someone I wanted to know more deeply. A few months later, everyone at work noticed one thing. Daniel Carter was still serious, still intimidating, still impossible to read. But whenever he looked at me, he smiled, and that was the only answer I needed.